Okay, so here we have a preacher curl. This bench is basically allowing us to keep the elbow fixed in position. So Kevin's basically going to put himself in a position where his elbow sinks into the pad, but he's not going to be too sunken down to the point where his body is down here. And now we've got far too much tension on the bicep tendon itself. So he can stay up and over the bench. His angle is going to be slightly turned away from the arm. This is just a better setup for his shoulder and bicep to go through when he goes through a full range of motion. If Kevin turns his body front on, you'll notice that at the top, as he comes down, it'll make his elbow want to come out, especially if he has limited range of motion through his shoulders if he's a little bit tight. As he curls up, it'll allow his elbow to come out a little bit and away from the direction of pull. Whereas Kevin aligns himself to have a chest open away. This will keep the line of force straight, which is perfect. I generally like to cue that clients will come down and they're not 100% full extension just because the stress can be a little high here. So we also want to make sure we're not using too much weight on this one. Curling all the way up, holding at the top, slight squeeze, slow down. So we can do this with a dumbbell or I can program in a barbell, but again, this will be programmed if the client has the mobility to do so. So we can use the different grips, whether it be a wider grip or a closer grip, depending on the shoulder width of that client. So if they're a wider person, they might need to go for a wider grip. If they're a more narrow person, they'll go for a narrow grip. But the same thing applies. Kevin's going to curl up. He's not going to extend backwards for his torso to shift the weight up. He's also not going to blast out from the bottom, which will end up skipping part of the good range that we want to go through and work through with momentum. Perfect. One last thing I want to include is if Kevin was to come to the top of the rep, there is a resting point here where the weight over his wrist is on top of his elbow. This is where we can cheat the rep by basically taking a rest at the top. So we want to come to a point just before the very, very top to keep that tension on the bicep and all the way through.